Damn, you are an elusive person, she said. I just muttered in response without turning around. I didn't need to look, she was still wearing the same perfume. Not knowing what else to do, I continued to bait the hook. She sat down next to him, dangling her slender legs over the pier. How are you? She asked. I reached over and turned off the cheap radio I took with me on fishing trips. Shrugged. I kept the two hooks between my lips and didn't want to start chatting while they were there. When I first started sea fishing, one of these hooks got caught on my earlobe, and I knew how difficult and painful it was to pull it out. I almost felt sorry for the fish. So this is what you do now? She asked, looking around. I understood why she was not happy. The pier was used by the fishing fleet, and their rubbish and gear lay here and there. I watched the fleet sail at dawn. I enjoyed watching them go and used to wave at them for good luck. At least I thought it was for luck. They might have thought differently and yelled something like, "Get out," at me as they waved back. I couldn't hear anything over the noise of their engines. I removed the hooks from my mouth for a moment. Pretty much like that, I like fish. She looked at me with sympathy. I didn't need her sympathy, but it didn't bother me as much as it might have previously. Jake, she began, but fell silent when I cast the line so that it fell into the shadow of the pier where the bend led to the west. The fish loved the shade at this time of day. Jake, she began again. I rummaged through an old army bag that I used for fishing gear and sundries. I gladly took out a flask and two plastic mugs. He poured some coffee and handed one of them to her. I didn't like that bitch, but my mom didn't teach us to be rude to guests. Rain took the cup, trying to touch it only with her fingertips. You weren't so picky before, I remarked. Well, if there is no need to wallow in the mud, why do it? Thought you liked to roll around in the mud. At least that's what it seemed like. You seemed to enjoy doing it with that idiot, getting my bed dirty. Her face turned pale. I wonder why. 5 years later, what did it matter? Have you seen us? You knew? I nodded, smoothly retracting the line. I didn't want you to find out that way, she said. She sounded sincere, but she was a cheater, and lying was a common thing for her. How did you want me to know you were a cheating bitch? I asked with genuine curiosity. She brushed her skirt as if there were crumbs on it, thinking about what to say. I grinned. I wasn't going to tell her that she had sat right on the dried innards of my kill from yesterday. I always gutted the fish right here and threw the insides back to feed those who were too smart to fall for my bait and hook. It was impossible to see the dirt on the black resinous surface. I figured that 10 minutes of her heat would be enough for the residue to stick to her gorgeous skirt. Well, she began, I was hoping we could talk, you, James, and I together. Did you really think I would sit down friendly with that bastard? My sincere surprise was obvious. She frowned. We could have a civil conversation and work things out. He'd have to pull my shoe out of his ass first, I suggested. This bastard is a complete asshole. I'd rather not breathe the same air as him. I'm basically ashamed of the fact that we both breathe oxygen. Jake, she sighed. That sigh was so familiar. Usually it was preceded by a request to be reasonable or a long silence to teach me something stupid. What? This slimy eel took advantage of my kindness and laid my wife under him, and my family with her. Then he stole my company. He's a bastard, a sick, vicious, slimy old bastard. And you thought we could sit down and have some tea or something? Did he steal your brain along with your promises? I shook my head. Crap. Now you're annoying me. For 5 years I was quite happy, and then you appeared again. Crap. What do you want, Rain? I won't give you money. I won't give you anything. You already took everything I had. You've spent it. Now go and spend it yourself. She looked at me with pity. Jake, I didn't come to ask you for money. I mean... She waved her hand towards the surroundings and me sitting in the middle of it all, as if to explain. So why are you here? Jake, you just ran away. I didn't know where you went or why. You didn't even leave a note or anything. You took a few things and that's it. Clothes and a few small things. She got it right. Little things. Better luck than she thought. No, I didn't just run away, as you put it. I considered my options, decided what I wanted to do, and did it. There was no escape. You're making it sound like I'm scared or being chased away. Damn, I didn't like it, but without you in the picture, all I had to think about was what I wanted. I thought about leaving a note, but I think it would have just said, "Dear Rain, you are a cheat, a liar, and a thief. I wish you a shitty life. Bye." But I didn't want to waste so much paper. "I've never been a thief." Rain was indignant. I giggled as she didn't deny everything else. Well, I had proof of this. After he deceived me and stole my company, I got drunk in rage and pain while he went to my house to celebrate by having my wife. When I found them doing this, a feeling of bitter, absolute rage fought with overwhelming despondency, and I simply walked away. The alternatives were 2 graves and life imprisonment or the electric chair. Yes? Then how come you and that bastard now own my family's business? A business in which I worked and sweated for almost 20 years. It was never yours, and yet somehow it ended up in your hands. It must be fucking magic. She had the decency to look embarrassed. "I wasn't involved in it," she said. "It was James. It's just business." No, it wasn't a business I would be involved in. He had secrets. Secrets that only 2 people knew, and I was one of them. You were different. So before you say it had nothing to do with you, explain how he found out about these secrets just in time to corner me in a meeting and vote me out. It was your voice that he used. She turned pale again. It didn't suit her blonde beauty. It made her look pale and sick. "Look, I didn't come here to talk about this," she stammered, trying to maintain her dignity. "No, I don't think that's what you came for," I said calmly. "There are some good things about that you were betrayed and you decided to just leave. But there are a few good ones. First of all, you decide when enough is enough, and seeing her jump on that nasty bastard was more than enough for me. Another thing is that sometimes you have a lot of time to think about things before they come back to you. I had 5 years before she showed up on my pier, plenty of time to think things through. I imagine that most couples who find themselves in the same situation, without time to think, start screaming, crying, stuttering, and searching for the right words interspersed with long pauses, trying to control their emotions and not hit each other. I had time for silence and solitude. "So why are you here?" I asked. The line shook and I pulled, feeling the rod come to life, enjoying the wave of excitement that ran through me. It was something that non-fishermen didn't understand, the joy of catching a 12-pound fish on a 6-pound line, playing with the fish, reeling it in, and letting it go until he was tired enough to pull it out. Sure, that and being left alone with my thoughts, which is what I was missing right now. "What are you doing?" she screamed as I jumped up and began to fight the fish, the rod jerking violently as I tried to steer it left and right. She stood up, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw her skirt briefly stick to the dirt on the ground. She smoothed it over her thighs and felt sticky. Then she started twisting and turning, trying to see what was on her skirt. I ignored her fuss and focused on the battle. Okay, that's not entirely true. I'd been fishing this pier for 5 years and usually had a decent catch by the end of the day, so I was on autopilot. This gave me time to think. I could imagine the fish below the surface being pulled in a direction it didn't want, instinctively fighting until fatigue and surrender inevitably set in. I think Rain would be a good fisherman. She played me throughout our marriage, and now she's back to do it again. She metaphorically raised her fishing rod, knew exactly where her fish was hiding, and prepared to launch the bait into the water. "It's about Carrie and John," she said almost matter-of-factly. "Never show the fish any sudden movements. Just tease with the bait and wait for the strike." "What's wrong with them?" "Jake, they miss you. Your kids miss you. They can visit me here if they want." The look she took at my belongings and the environment made it clear that this was not an option she wanted to consider. "They need you to be a bigger part of their life," she continued as if I hadn't said anything. So it was a prepared speech. "They need more stability, and they need you. But if you can't play as big a role as you'd like, we need to find another way to provide that." As I continued to fight the fish, I could almost feel the bait in my mouth. with the hook carefully hidden inside. It was a surreal moment. And what could this other way be? We thought James might adopt them, and before you freak out, think about it. It makes sense. He is with them every day, and together we are the parents they need. This is about the kids, Jake, not you and me or James and me. This only applies to children. Trust me. I'm their mother, and I want what's best for them. What were Carrie's science grades last semester? I asked. It seemed ridiculous after the bomb she had just dropped, but I had my reasons for asking this question. What? You are their mother and so close to them. Thought you'd like to brag about her success to me. Show what a good job you've done. Listen, I don't want to talk about their studies. They are both very good students, so you don't have to worry about it. No, I'm not worried. They are smart children. They can cope with a little help. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. But what will really help is if James adopts them and takes on all these boring responsibilities. Take over? Take over from whom? Thought you did all these duties. Yes, of course. I just meant the parts you would do if you were there. That doesn't make sense, I protested. I'm not there, so who's doing it now? James. He does it. He is a good man. He's a slimy bastard. We have already agreed on this. No, they didn't agree, and stop calling him that, she demanded. So if he's doing all the things I would do if I were there, why would he adopt my children to continue doing that? Damn it, woman, you're not making any sense at all. She looked very flushed. I wonder if she's sick. I hope so. Are you feeling unwell? It's the smell of fish. He is very strong. I do not feel anything. Maybe it seems to you. No, I'm not making anything up. He is very strong. Maybe it's because of the shit you got into. Listen, James is a successful, respected man who is a great role model for children. And you, I'm sure you're trying, but let's be honest, you're no good. You have nothing. Frankly speaking, you are nobody. James wanted to help, and I have a check for $5,000 in my bag. Take him. Use it to gather your strength. Give your children and yourself a chance for a better life. Well, I certainly appreciate your generosity, but I'm quite happy here with my fishing rod and bait. That's all I need now. I don't want to sell my children. My fish is almost tired. The intervals between jerks of the fishing rod became longer and longer. But I wasn't stupid. I knew there was always a last-ditch attempt when the fish felt the net beneath him. As she continued to try to clear her skirt, muttering something about how I didn't warn her, I crouched down and, with a quick, deft movement, scooped up my prize with the net. As I expected, she began her final convulsive jerks as I lifted her onto the pier, spraying water and slime onto the Rhine. She screamed and started jumping, trying to avoid it. The heel of one of her shoes broke. You can walk and even dance in shoes, but you can't jump on uneven concrete and expect them to remain intact. She staggered and almost fell into the water. I caught it and put it back. Why did you do that? Look at my suit, it's ruined. I did not do anything. This is the fish itself. You can't force a fish to do what you want. The fish only does what its instinct tells it to do. A single tear rolled down her cheek. This was Kodak's moment. I guess for the current generation, it would be selfie time. It was a tried and tested tactic to melt my heart. I leaned over and wiped it off. You have a little seawater on your face, I said sympathetically. Now, what were you muttering while I was catching this cunning bastard? I hunted him all summer. Now he's mine. Deftly, I pulled the hook out of his mouth and held the fish tightly with both hands. Do you want to kiss him before he leaves? I asked, handing it to her. The fish opened and closed its mouth, gasping. I guess it looked like she was threatening to eat her. She let out a scream and pulled back. Grinning, I carried the fish to the edge and gently released it back into the water. When I turned around, she looked at me like I was crazy. Why did you let him go? You could get a good meal out of this fish. I showed my disgust at the idea. I won't eat this fish. It tastes disgusting. Hate. But you spent all day catching it. And what? She's already been on my hook 4 times this summer and gotten away every time. It got personal. I turned on the radio, picked up the phone, and pressed one of the saved numbers. I finished. I turned off the radio again and put my phone away. I'm heading home. The sunsets here are very beautiful, but I would advise you to leave before dark. Questionable characters live here. You look like an easy target. I took the fishing rod and walked away. I heard a frightened squeak and the stomping of one high heel. Wait, please. My phone isn't working. It doesn't work here. There's no signal, I lied. It wouldn't work as long as my radio was off. But your phone worked. Satellite phone, I said stone-faced, doesn't work on the same system as yours. Oh, then can I use yours? No, the battery is dead. That's why I spoke so briefly. But how can I order a taxi then? I thought about it, trying to keep a straight face. I think your best chance will be a smoke signal. There's a lot to burn here. Of course, fire attracts those bad people I warned about. I don't have matches, she said plaintively. I almost laughed. Either she had developed a keen sense of humor over the years and was making fun of me, or she had become the worthless thing she always pretended she wasn't. I still wasn't sure how much of this was true. Damn, I muttered when I heard the car. My fun will soon come to an end, or not. The limousine stopped next to me. The driver, dressed in her smart white shirt and short gray skirt, stepped out of the car and put on her cap. She opened the back door for me and took my fishing rod and bait to take them apart and put them in the trunk. She did this so often that she packed everything in a matter of seconds. I noticed Rain's face. The main expression was surprise, although disbelief followed. I couldn't resist. Rose, what did I tell you about the length of this skirt? It must be a uniform, damn it. Sorry, sir, Rose apologized in her absolutely charming English accent. I forgot. Carefully, she took the waistband and rolled it up several times, raising the already short hemline another 3 inches and exposing most of her gorgeous thighs. I made a circular motion with my finger, and she obediently turned around so I could see her ass. Brazenly, she arched it a little. I sighed theatrically. Rose, you need to remember my instructions, understand? Yes, sir, she gave a crisp salute. Oh, sir, I know Mr. Yamamoto hopes you will call him soon as he has to attend cockeye in the morning, but do you want me on your lap now or later, sir? The impudent little bitch tried to play my own game with me. There's no time for kneeling now. We'll have to make do. On the trunk. Her eyes, which had sparkled with hidden laughter a moment ago, widened at my words and then became clouded. Yes, sir. She turned and leaned over the hood, then flipped the hem of her skirt over her back, revealing some very cute pink panties. Damn, she was ready. Well, if so, I slapped her on the right buttock. She barely moved. She had a very tight ass. I heard Rain gasp. 1, thank you, sir. Please, can I have one more? I spanked her on the other one, a little harder. 2, thank you, sir. Please, can I have one more? When we got to 10, I started to sweat, and not from exertion. Rose was shaking slightly and breathing very quickly. 10, thank you, sir. Please, can I have one more? Rose, you know that I can only give you 10. It's in the company's rules. Damn, I forgot to stick to the accent. Well, okay, my ex could draw her own conclusions. I know, sir. But subparagraph 3 of paragraph 7 states that if a second offense occurs during the punishment, then further punishment can be applied immediately. She took off her cap and dropped it to the floor, revealing her shiny reddish hair. I like this color. Oh, sorry, sir. I think I will also need to be punished for this. I gave her 10 more spanks very quickly. She really was my driver, but spanking was just a little game we played sometimes. I didn't expect her to play it in front of my ex-wife, although I have to admit, it made everything even more fun. After a few seconds, she turned around, thanked me for my hand, and put on her cap, standing at the door, ready to close it when I entered. I sat down with a sigh. Thank you, Rose. Home, please. I really need a shower. Yes, sir. I'll let Alicia know you're on your way. Wonderful. She began to close the door, and then Rain, who had been standing with her mouth open, as if she had seen a miracle, suddenly screamed and rushed forward. Wait, is this your car? She gasped. This is his work machine, Rose whispered, knowing that I could hear her clearly. At that moment, I realized that she recognized my ex from the photographs that were pinned to the dartboard on the back door of my office, and was playing with her almost as well as I was playing with that fish. When a photo had too many holes, one of the staff would print out another one and replace it. I became very good at playing darts. He uses a Lamborghini when he goes to clubs, or a Mercedes Sport when he goes to wine farms. He lets me drive this car as a special treat. I can't drive a Ferrari, only he can drive one. Are you his girlfriend? Rain gasped, still in shock. Rose was just as shocked. Oh my God, madam, I'm his driver. It would be indecent if I were his girlfriend. Rain looked at her with a very old-fashioned expression, but she had more urgent matters on her mind. I need transport to the city. I'll go with you. Rose made a small sound of alarm. I looked at her. Sir, this lady's scent will permeate the car. It will be almost impossible to remove it. Michaela will kill me, sir. Please. Oh, she's right, Rain. Those fish guts you smeared all over your ass will ruin your skin. Sorry, we'll have to walk. Oh, thank you, sir. It's such a relief. Michaela wouldn't be as nice about punishment as you are. Rose actually looked relieved. Wait, Rain squealed. Let me think, please. You could take it off, Rose suggested. But you have to leave it here. The smell will drive us crazy. What? I won't leave this here. This is a unique design creation. No, it's a fake copy. Chinese. You can tell by the way the buttons on the belt are sewn. Rain stared at her. How can you even know that? I have a first degree in design from Oxford. Clothes were my first love. And now you are the driver. Cars were my second love. They came first in my liking after Sir hired me. Now take this off and sit down, or I will drive away and leave you. Sir may punish me for this later. Rain sped up. The buttons that Rose spoke of were difficult to unfasten. Is Michaela his girlfriend? Rain whispered. Of course not. She's his mechanic. Ha, she would love to be his girlfriend. Female mechanic. There are not many of them. She didn't start out as a mechanic. She's Italian. She was an engineering student in Rome when Sir found her, and had also modeled for Prada and Valentino. Alessandra was horrified when Michaela went to see Sir. It will take a lot of time? I asked lazily. I really enjoyed listening to Rose. I liked her accent. It was she who convinced me to use the services of a voice coach. Initially, it was useful for business meetings. Over time, this became the norm, and I rarely deviated from it, although I did enjoy returning to my native dialect when Rain came along. No, sir, it will come off now. I heard a crash, and Rain screamed in shock. Rose simply grabbed the skirt by the waistband and pulled it down until it tore. I became interested when I saw Rose begin to unbutton Rain's blouse. What to say? Rain's body was as delicious as her moral principles were disgusting. Get out, bitch, Rain hissed. It's a real Parisian thing. Oh, please, the closest this thing ever came to Paris was when a container ship from Mumbai passed through the Mediterranean. You don't know anything about clothes at all. Get out. You will not enter my car, Sir's car, in this stinking rag. Oh, fuck it. My interest increased when I saw Rose tearing her blouse, pulling it over Rain's arms, and throwing it over her skirt. It was an interesting sight as the struggle made my ex-wife's breasts jiggle and jiggle in her little black bra. Shoes, Rose demanded, looking like the sweetest SA employee you've ever seen. The shoes were collected along with the rags that were her clothes, and they were all thrown into the trash. Sit down, Rose ordered, and Rain hurried to comply before she lost her panties too. Sir, let me drive a little faster. This, lady, delayed us, and Alicia wanted us to be on time. She means those soufflés, and if we are late and they fall. I shuddered at the thought of Alicia's distress. Forward, if we get caught by the police, well, at least we can show Alicia the speeding ticket as proof we tried. Alicia is his girlfriend, asked Rain. No, Alicia is my chef. Also from Rome, I believe. I smiled at the thought. No, she's from Australia, although she spent some time in Rome receiving her 3rd Michelin star. And I assume she modeled for Dolce and Gabbana. Sarcasm and disbelief fought for dominance in her voice. I heard Rose try to stifle a giggle, and I joined her. No, she's not a model, I said when I pulled myself together. But she was a centerfold in Playboy, sir, Rose interjected. I guess that counts. I had to agree. Alicia actually modeled. It counted. Ryan's mouth did a great job of portraying an old catfish. Mikola was the one who modeled for Dolce and Gabbana in her early days, Rosa finished. Mechanic. The mouth was still doing the fish imitation. Yes, her father was a designer for the Lamborghini family, I explained. And then for the Mimran brothers. He took her with him to work. Working with machines is filled with many pleasant memories for her. But she's not the driver. Oh my God, no. My accent was now mid-Atlantic, with lots of British speech patterns. I liked it. When Chrysler bought the company, her father was forced to retire. She blames the American auto industry for this, and couldn't drive the limousine even if I paid her. So I pay her to be my mechanic. She loves these cars like children, but she never drives this one. I could hear Rose talking quietly through a hidden Bluetooth headset hidden under her hair. Sir, Rachel says Alicia is in tears and throwing a loud tantrum because the soufflés fell and she doesn't have time to make new ones before we get home. Tell her that if her soufflé actually fell, she'd be fired. For 24 hours, sir? Yes, this is a soufflé, not unicorn steaks. I think they probably taste better than unicorns, sir. Doesn't matter. Rose muttered into the phone. Rachel says Alicia is very happy now. Wonderful. Rain looked at me as if I had turned into a snake. Who are you? What do you mean, who am I? You know me, still the same as me. I returned to the speech of my childhood, the childhood when I met a stunningly beautiful woman in college, a woman who made fun of my speech but loved me, the woman who married me and bore me 2 children while I worked my ass off for them, a woman who started dating a man with a higher status than me, and then together with him decided to steal everything from me, a woman who failed spectacularly in this endeavor. You fired a Michelin star chef, and she's very happy about it. You must be a monster if she's happy to be fired. From the front seat, I heard Rose giggle. I was going to talk to her about this. I couldn't let my staff eavesdrop, and she is happy because now she will sleep with Sir all day. Rose always had a tendency to talk too much. Another punishment, I decided. I told Rose about this. She seemed very excited to hear this. But you fired her, Rain interrupted. Please, sir, oh please, can you explain it to me? Rose begged. Oh, okay, very good, I said. Sir cannot sleep with an employee. That would be very bad, and people might say that he is harassing his employees. Sir would never do this, and would never allow an employee to harass him. But if someone is fired and happens to still live in the house and irate the way to his bed, then who could cry about harassment? That's why Alicia is so glad she got fired, although not as happy as she will be tomorrow morning. But he spanked you right in front of me. This is an attack. It's part of my contract, so when I mess up, I know the consequences. Are you stupid for allowing this to be part of your employment contract? Rain said, getting angry at the thought. How dare you, Rose hissed. You have no idea how hard it was for me to get that clause included. I think Rain was on the verge of overload. Luckily, we arrived at my gate. The 2 graceful girls at the gate smiled broadly. I smiled back. Dressed in dark blue uniforms with mid-length skirts and carefully tailored jackets, they looked as if they had just stepped out of a fraternity house. In fact, both could kill a man in 14 different ways, and that was without the use of the discreet machine guns they carried at their left shoulders and the smaller model that was somehow attached to their thigh under their skirts. I've reviewed the latest holsters at a few very nice events and still have no idea how they hold up. But I knew how much they enjoyed my confusion and frequent attempts to solve this riddle. Following my routine, I rolled down the window and Abigail poked her head inside to explore the interior. She looked at Rain. "Has Mrs. Fontaine been checked for weapons, sir?" I looked at Rain. She was wearing a black bra and panties. It didn't seem like she had a weapon hidden somewhere, but they didn't check her. "Not yet, Abby." "Yes, sir." She put her hand under her jacket. "Mrs. Fontaine, leave the car immediately." Laura, her partner at the gate, quietly walked to the other door and, on Abai's orders, opened the door so that Rain had a full view of both. They never risked my safety, and she also kept her hand on the handle of the machine gun. Rain's eyes were huge. She looked at me. I stared back. "Mrs. Fontaine, get out of the car, now." Abai's tone became much more urgent. I hoped there would be no shooting. Rain jumped out of the car as if she had been pushed. Laura led her to the security booth. I stroked Abai's cheek. "Thank you, dear." She rubbed herself against my palm. "Always a pleasure, sir," she whispered. "I think it would be best to isolate her." She nodded. Rain's security check didn't take long, although it was probably more thorough than usual. My security also saw the photograph with darts stuck into it. She returned a few minutes later, looking red and disheveled, trying to adjust her bra and panties at the same time. Laura looked into the car. "There are no weapons or listening devices, sir. She's clean, although perhaps not as clean as it was before the inspection." She felt a little hot. Under her collar, "We confiscated her phone as you asked." "Are you sure she's clean?" I teased her. "Sir," she sounded offended and upset that I might doubt her professionalism, but I saw a sparkle in her eyes. "We always do our work carefully. We checked everywhere." "Everywhere?" "Twice, sir." "Good job. It's a pity. I was looking forward to firing you both." Her eyes widened with pleasure, but then she looked sad. "You can't fire us until C1 and Sheena return from Japan and take another shift." "To hell with these vacations. I was stupid to let you all have 4 weeks off so you could travel to foreign countries and leave me behind," I said. "You gave them the keys to your house there, so I don't think you can complain too much." I stroked her cheek, and she rubbed against my palm just like Abai. It was something they saw from me and Rachel, and this small gesture of affection quickly spread among the staff. Hey, it made us all happy. All my employees were very well paid, but it seemed like they didn't stick with me or enjoy my little quirks just for the money. They enjoyed the paycheck, sure, but they also really enjoyed work, life, travel, meeting and greeting the rich and social. It was a funny way to live. For some reason I could never understand, they really loved me. Rachel joined me first when I spontaneously offered her my new home as a refuge from the paparazzi after an incident at a party to which I had been invited, probably by mistake. I remember blushing to the roots of my hair when, in a fit of incredible stupidity, I blurted out this invitation, but to my amazement, the actress considered my proposal, looked at me, and then nodded. She stayed in the house in one of the guest rooms for one night, which turned into another night. Then, one magical evening, she joined me in my bed, and we both found much pleasure together. I guess I did something right because somehow she stayed the next night and the next and the next. Eventually, all those subsequent nights turned into weeks. Gradually, she took over running my house when she wasn't filming or rehearsing and brought the others to work with me, simply stating that I needed them and I had to deal with it. I really loved Rachel, and she quit more often than anyone else, and no one minded. I think she was very careful in choosing all the girls she brought. Make of it what you will. I've thought about this a lot, until she showed me, and then I just enjoyed it. As a result, I went from being an abandoned cuckold whose children were out of reach to finding a large, diverse, and loving family. Of course, the fact that I had a lot of inventions in my head when I was kicked out of the family business by my unfaithful wife and her boyfriend who took everything from me helped a lot to get back on my feet. A year after I first lived in a cardboard box, with the pain of betrayal and the desire for revenge as my only companions, I filed 27 patents and licensed them to a few very lucky companies. This betrayal, the theft of my life and time spent in an old washing machine box, sparked a whirlwind of innovative ideas in my mind. They resulted in a tsunami of inventions. I didn't have the money to file the patents, but the lawyer who always handled my company's affairs was loyal to me and worked on a no-win, no-fee basis. His firm filed the paperwork, registering patents for a company in which I was the sole shareholder, with the condition that I would pay them after receiving the first payments. He had not only loyalty, but also faith in me. In exchange, over the next 3 years, I made him and his firm very rich, and in the process became fabulously rich myself. Not bad, right? My first priority was to see my children again. A significant but undisclosed donation to their school enabled this, although again, it was Rachel who negotiated and secured it. When she smiled that world-famous smile familiar from the big screen, people melted in all directions and rushed to fulfill her slightest wish. There was no actual restraining order preventing me from seeing my children, so it wasn't illegal, but my cheating ex-wife and her sneaky husband could have it within an hour if they found out, and then use the kids to blackmail me with money or whatever else they could squeeze out of that lemon. The children agreed never to talk about me. They were so happy to see me that Carrie and John would have promised me the moon to continue our meetings. I never picked them up from the school grounds, but they suddenly started signing up for every after-school sports and cultural activity that was offered. I was not surprised that Rain and the scoundrel agreed to all their requests. They were just happy that they didn't have to do anything other than pick them up from school late at night. Over time, even this was passed on to the good neighbors and parents of Carrie and John's friends. When I asked my wife what Carrie's grades were in science, I knew what the answer would be. I attended the awards ceremony that the school held at the end of every semester. I was there. There weren't any. She had no idea how or what children did. The kids thought it was the funniest thing when I showed up for the first time in disguise, afraid that Rain might show up unexpectedly. In fact, they laughed so hard that the teacher, wishing it was best, put them in extracurricular time for making fun of the poor disabled person. I spent after school with them, helping them with their math and science homework. They really liked it. Now I no longer bothered with the disguise, knowing that Rain and her scoundrel husband had much more important things to do in their business and social calendar than dealing with her children. By my children, the car pulled up to the house and entered a simple garage, empty except for a few tools and oil cans. The door closed behind us, and I sighed with pleasure. I loved my garage. Rain screamed as the car suddenly began to lower after Rose pressed a button on the dashboard. The garage floor sank smoothly and quietly, and having reached the bottom, Rose took the car out of the elevator and smoothly parked in the allotted space. Michaela raised her head from under the hood of the Mustang, and her beautiful face lit up with a smile of greeting. The smile disappeared when she saw my passenger. Rose quickly jumped out and opened my door, reminding me that she was meddling in my affairs, and according to her contract, I agreed to set the punishment for that evening. As I said this, her eyes closed and her legs trembled slightly. I brought her cheek to mine and led Rain into the passenger elevator. She kept forcing the doors open again, peeking out to take another look at another classic car. "Is this a Rolls-Royce?" she asked. Her eyes were huge. "Yeah, Mick Jagger sold him to me, saying he was too old for all this nonsense. He's a grandpa now and doesn't need him." Again, she looked at me as if I were an alien. "How? When? What? You couldn't win the lottery. We would have heard about it." "Listen to me, huh? Didn't want the cuckold to find his place without you getting your claws into me, huh?" She blushed. "No, I was worried about your well-being." "Really? Your concern could put me in my grave. Please don't worry about me anymore. Don't need to. Don't want to." Why do you say that? I say it the way I like it. I'm sorry if it doesn't make you happy, in which case please get out and don't let the door hit you in your fat, quivering ass on the way out. She paused, trying to understand what I said through the many accents I used. I made a mental note to send another bouquet of flowers to my voice coach. She's the best in the business. Finally, we reached home. The elevator doors opened and Rachel stood there quietly, hands clasped in front of her, waiting for me. I took her hands and just looked at her until she blushed. Your hair is a little redder. I like it. Thank you, sir. I needed this for my last new role, but if you like. You know I love everything about you. Every inch is perfect. She hit me lightly on the arm, as if to indicate that I shouldn't say such things, but if I insisted, she wouldn't be too upset. I loved it. She made me smile, and when she smiled, the world lit up at the sight of the dimple in her cheek. Rachel was often away from work, but when we saw each other again, it was as if she was never gone for more than a day. When she was gone, every day seemed like a month. I pulled her close to me for a full-body hug and kissed her on the lips. I missed you. Can I fire you? You were out fishing, sir, so I'm sure you couldn't miss me that much. And no, you can't. You fired Alicia, and she's so happy she cried a little on my shoulder. She needs you. You can fire me tomorrow. This time I kissed her properly. She responded enthusiastically and then pulled away with a disapproving look. Sir, you can't do this to an employee. I can report you for this. PFFT, I said dismissively. You're my full heart, but only a partial employee. Complain all you want. Let's see if I care. Be nice, she said, slapping my arm again, with a mysterious smile on her beautiful lips. She seemed to like the idea of being my full heart. Rachel and I had a strange relationship. She joined me whenever she wanted, usually between films, but not always. I assumed there might be other men, and the paparazzi linked her to everyone from the vice president to last year's Indie winner. If all reports are to be believed, she dated 14 guys at once, went out with at least 3 of them every night, and slept with every man and woman in every movie she ever made. One report confused her with one of the characters she played and essentially portrayed her in a frantic same-sex relationship with herself. It was all very funny, and none of these reports touched my heart. No, I didn't cut myself off emotionally from all women. Rachel and I have never promised each other anything, and I don't think we ever will. I would marry her in a heartbeat, but I think somewhere in her past she was hurt just as badly as I was. I didn't ask, and neither did she. We were happy with what we had, and although she was away for a long time, she often called me and the girls, remaining distant in our lives. It worked. I had no idea why she started calling me sir and herself housekeeper, although I think the latter gave her a sense of rootedness, a vital stability in her life, where she could be normal and confident in a world where she had to spend months pretending to be everything from an ancient queen to a master thief to a spy. She was a housekeeper, and as such, she decided that she should call me sir. The others took up my new title readily and with great enthusiasm. At first, I thought that this slightly submissive need for such a strong woman was a rehearsal for the role she was preparing to play, but she disproved that idea. No, sir, there's no need for acting here. I agreed with this, enjoyed it 100%. While she was gone, I fired other girls every day, and they were promoted to girl for that day. If I had an event or party, they would accompany me, or we would stay home, like Alicia and I were planning to do that night. For some strange reason, Alicia had a passion for pizza, which she could cook with her eyes closed. She loved the whole ritual of ordering it, receiving it from the girl who delivered it, and then sharing it with me right out of the box. I think it had something to do with a happy childhood in Adelaide, Sydney, or Perth, somewhere in there. Somewhere on this continent, anyway. Firing the staff before sleeping with them was also Rachel's idea. It started as a silly idea, but quickly became an integral part, and perhaps it did give the whole thing a clear status. Having to fire an evening companion after arranging for a replacement, if necessary, emphasized my privileges and responsibilities. I knew how far I could go emotionally with my sophisticated staff, while at the same time letting them know that sleeping with the boss was taboo. They could only sleep with their boyfriend, which I could only become after they were fired. Each of them knew that we were exclusive within our group for security reasons. They were working towards a seductive goal that became more seductive as I became richer every day. The safety of all of us depended on each of them. Neither of them wanted to be laid off permanently and knew that if they met someone special, they might just quit. I valued them more than money, and I tried to make sure we all had a lot of fun in many different places. When I traveled, we all traveled together. When Rachel looked at Rain, I turned slightly. Rain, this is. You, in the movies, you're Rachel. Yes, I know, dear. I have been since birth. And I know who you are too. You are Sir's ex-wife. Do you understand the dangerous situation you are in now? She turned to me. And why is she half naked? I explained about her dress. Rachel looked at me carefully, and I knew we would discuss this a little later. Wait here, she ordered Rain. Please, don't take off your clothes anymore. She put the phone to her ear. Alicia, come up to the entrance. Please bring your guest robe with you. Oh, and you're fired from now on, so hurry up. Before I have to claw my eyes out, she finished with a sigh and a raised eyebrow at Rain. Rachel, I chided. Be kind. Rain came to offer me money. She stared at me, stunned. How much? For what? 5,000. He wants to buy children from me. I saw a dangerous glint in my little redhead's eyes. She knew how much I loved my children and how hard I worked to spend time with them. Do you want to buy his children? She hissed at Ryan. My ex-wife stepped back a little. Rachel was beautiful and had the most gentle, loving nature. However, she was now in full defense mode. I was even a little afraid. Do you think so little about your children? She asked. They are your children too, but you value them at only 2,500 each. If I had children, I would not sell any of them for 100 million, and you value them at the cost of a trip to Disneyland. No, it's not like that, Rain whined. We tried to help him. We knew he didn't have. Well, we thought he didn't have any money, and we knew he was too proud, so we thought. Is this the best lie you could come up with? Rachel asked, sounding incredulous. Come on, you made it up better on the fly when you cheated on him. Has your lying skill atrophied? How? Rachel knows everything about us, every detail. I think you've set the fight for women's equality back 40 years, Rachel said. Alone, I've heard a lot of crap from idiots, especially in my industry, which, unfortunately, is full of smug, narcissistic idiots. But you outdid everyone in vileness, lies, gossip, cheating, selfishness, theft. She fell silent and turned to me, her eyes shining with uncontrollable tears. I realized that she loves me and wants my happiness. I felt the same way, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. She needed freedom, and I needed her to be happy. Honey, are you okay? She whispered. How did you not strangle her? I was tempted, but then I would have ended up in prison and locked away from my family, and most importantly, from you. I hugged her tightly when I heard an accented Australian voice. Hey, put that dirty wench down. You fired me, not her. Alicia had a big smile on her face, and then she saw Rain. Oh, I think you need a robe. Put it on. There's no point in advertising a figure like that. I'm all about less is more when it comes to cooking and makeup, but in your case, more is just more, probably too much. So put on more and cover it up. I couldn't help but grin, my abdominal muscles quivering, letting Rachel know I was fine. I turned to see Alicia holding out the robe to Rain. Her rich Australian accent had softened a bit over the years in France and working for me, but it was loud and clear when she insulted my ex. Rain struggled as she put on her robe, looking devastated. I understood why. Comparing Rain to Alicia was a bit like comparing a French bulldog to a purebred Afghan in terms of beauty. Both are dogs, and both could be loving and loyal. Okay, that comparison doesn't work on any level. Alicia was tall and slender, but with surprisingly large breasts. Her features were graceful and delicate, and she looked like a young, fragile supermodel. With shiny blonde hair falling to the hem of her short skirt hair that was usually tied up casually in a bun under a chef's cap, she looked like the perfect young debutante. Innocence and purity emanated from her every pore. However, when she opened her mouth, she sounded like a dock rat due to the sheer volume of curses that came out of it. In fact, she admitted to me in a whisper that her nickname in culinary school was the dock rat. The contrast between her slim figure and features and her vast, dirty vocabulary never ceased to amuse me, and I really enjoyed being her boyfriend every time she got fired. She kissed me while Rain looked at her in surprise. You decided to pick up some pathetic slut instead of coming home and sleeping with me? What were you thinking? My beautiful soufflés, I made those damn chocolate pepper ones you like so much. It's all ruined, you shameless bastard. Indeed, I loved her creations so much. It's quite common now, but back then the mixture of chocolate and pepper was so exotic and new. I didn't need exotic flavors, I needed her soufflés. I looked at her sadly. She softened as I hugged and kissed her, tasting her tongue and lipstick. "I'll make some more for breakfast for all of us, okay?" she said. Michaela entered the fray, walking up the stairs from the garage towards our small group. "Hey, who made the limousine smell like fish? A nasty old fish at that. Why are you fishing when you have a whole fishing fleet?" Michaela, for whom the word bombshell was invented, was the very essence of the cliché of the small but curvaceous, always fertile Italian beauty. Her English always deteriorated when she was angry or excited, which made everything very interesting. "He smells like you dragged an old bitch into the back seat. Is she an old, easy-to-get girl? Why did you bring her home? Why didn't you leave her in the alley where you found her?" I suppressed a fit of laughter. My girls decided to start an all-out war on me today. I think Rose spread a rumor about a personal matter that my ex-wife discussed with me in the car. This meant double punishment before bed for my English driver. She deserved it. My suspicions were confirmed when Abby and Laura entered too, followed by Caroline, my secretary. Each of them now stood around me and my ex-wife, each of them giving me an encouraging pat or squeezing my hand. "The lockdown is in effect, sir. No one will be coming in or out until tomorrow," Abby said. "I took the liberty of placing your friend in Hazel's room." I heard Michaela mutter something like, "Should have left the bitch in the alley." Lockdown was interesting for two reasons. Firstly, we had never had a house lockdown before, mainly because we didn't have anything that could do it. It was not part of my security system. Secondly, Rain had apparently been deliberately isolated in my home and was now placed in the room next to mine. Did they expect me to visit her at night? Alicia noticed my confusion and guessed the reason. "Not a chance, buddy. You're my boyfriend for the night, so take your mind off her fat ass and focus on my breasts. Okay? And if your thoughts are good, we can arrange something to make both of us happy. In the meantime." Now I understand. Alicia was going to do everything she could to make Rain understand what she had lost. I assumed I would have a good voice tonight. Alicia was a generous lover who, every time she was fired, tried to turn me into a puddle. At least that's what I thought. What if she held back? God, she could kill me with her kindness. Well, it's better than being hit in the ass with a rusty sword, as my dad used to say. Yes, this is not very clear to me either. Rain looked unhappy. "I can't stay. What will my husband think?" "He'll probably think Grazy Dio, no need to sleep next to an old lady who smells like fish," Michaela said politely. I giggled. "Caroline," I said. A tall, slender, dark-skinned beauty with classic features and bright green eyes almost stood at attention. "Yes, sir." I smiled at her. Despite her beauty and amazing intelligence, she always seemed nervous in my presence, like an antelope next to a predator. Except when I fired her. Then the prey turned into a predator, and it turned into a panther, which burst into my bedroom and long and persistently enjoyed my helpless body. Each of my girls had their own mind, body, and spirit, and they all seemed happy to dedicate it all to me and each other. I had no idea why. Any one of my 9 ladies could, and often in the past would, command great fame, huge salaries, hordes of subordinates, or even, in Siobhan's case, small armies. Somehow Rachel found 8 wonderful, beautiful women who were bored, damaged, threatened, unhappy, or unacknowledged in their lives, brought them together, and united them into an almost impenetrable family around one broken man. They were my shield, and I was now the stone at their center. It should never have worked, but somehow it did. Caroline, please implement the Ashado's protocol. Her eyes widened, and then a wide smile appeared on her generous lips, her perfect teeth flashing for a moment. At my command, a wave of excitement ran through my employees. Rachel turned to me and took my hands. Finally, she whispered, Caroline has disappeared. Rose, I called. The redhead turned to me. Go to my punishment room. Wait there until I arrive. Be patient. She knew what that meant. She will kneel on the rug at the foot of the bed, not daring to even touch herself as her excitement and arousal grow. I kissed Alicia, who sighed. Did this damn bitch do something wrong again? I nodded. Are we going to spank her ass together? I nodded again. She trembled. God, I love this damn job, she whispered, and then said loudly, Rose, you disgraceful little bitch. Double dessert for you tonight. The pizza's enough for everyone arrived, brought by Chelsea, the regular delivery girl. Abby and Laura let her through, betting that Rain didn't realize the house wasn't on a true lockdown. I think Chelsea loved delivering to my house, not only because she always received really big tips, but also because of the opportunity to see many exquisite, beautiful women happily accepting her delivery and rewarding her with a kiss. If Chelsea wasn't bi-curious before she started delivering to us, she certainly was now. Alicia and I sat on the couch and watched the latest episode of the Australian series for a while. I thought it was complete nonsense, but I was glad to share this little taste of her homeland with her while we ate. As far as I could tell, the plot hadn't moved an iota in the 10 episodes since I last fired Alicia, and I'd come to the conclusion that if the show was even remotely reflective of reality, then Australia must be filled with the stupidest, most mundane people you can imagine. I had never been there and had no idea, but had it in my mind that if Alicia was more representative, then it would be an insanely exciting place and worth an extended visit. I knew we had several patents licensed to Australian companies and thought perhaps I could take my staff on a business trip there in the Act Neo I had on permanent lease. I decided to wait until Sheena and Siobhan returned from holiday and then put it to a vote. When we finished looting the pizza box, I picked Alicia up, which she loved because it made her feel young and fragile, and carried her to my bedroom. Rose was waiting for us. According to protocol, she was in full uniform, right down to her cap. What should I do with you, Rose? You keep breaking the rules. My frustrated sigh was a great example of acting, if you ask me. I'm sorry, sir. I'm really sorry. I'll do better. Please don't fire me. Her voice shook, and she was able to squeeze out a real tear, returning my acting skills to their rightful place below. This will hurt more for you than for me, Rose. I quickly slapped one cheek, then the other, waited a little longer than expected, and did it again. I nodded to Alicia. You're a bad little bitch, aren't you? She growled. I don't think this punishment is enough, I remarked. You seem to be enjoying this too much. What should we do? What should we do? You should make that nasty little bitch give you the pleasure of a sign of apology, Alicia suggested. She grabbed Rose by the hair and led her towards me, crawling on her knees. Unbuckle his belt, she ordered. Rose hurried to complete the task with shaking hands. To hell with it, I thought, giving up my kissing ban. I leaned over and kissed her hard. I heard conversations outside and turned my head to listen. Yes, every night. Why not? It was Rachel's voice. Well, we had sex every night, but we didn't have sex with multiple partners at once. Rain sounded worried, upset. Jealous? Oh, it's just Rose. She's everyone's favorite, and the girls rarely mind her participation. She's so kind and generous and just loves spanking. Actually, she just loves everything related to sex. But she's generous as crazy, loyal to the last degree, and gives so much to her partners that when she wants to join, people rarely refuse. It won't last all night, of course. She knows that today is Alicia's night, so she will leave with dignity and leave the two of them. Jake, can it be long? You should know that, Rachel laughed. I'm sure he gave you thousands of pleasures before you cheated. How does that work for you? Still getting all the sex you need? A long silence followed. Well, James is getting old. He's younger than Jake. Rain didn't seem to hear it. And of course, business occupies him so much. Jake made $1 million today on a deal with the Japanese. He did it half an hour before the pizzas arrived. How does James handle it? Look, we can change the subject. I was wondering where you are in all this. I mean, you're a movie star. I'm also Jake's housekeeper, big sister to the girls, and more. I help Jake keep his life in order. Like me and James. There followed a long silence that seemed like an eternity. No, actually, it's nothing like what you do with James. It's like comparing a kaleidoscope to the Hubble telescope. I help keep him and the girls in focus if you want. I'm the girl's big sister, and I'm the housekeeper, confidant, close friend, and— Tell me, wife, I mentally urged. Tell me, wife. Loving partner, Rachel finished. I sank slightly. I knew what our relationship was like, but I couldn't help but want more. But that was okay. What we have is enough. You don't get much love today, Rain said sarcastically. Oh, hellfire me tomorrow afternoon. I'll try to look as beautiful as possible for him. First, we have the opening of a new exhibition at the Whitney with the First Lady and her children, and then, while we're in New York, a dinner and dance at Layval. Finally, back here for a wonderful night. Her voice became dreamy. I loved it when she got so romantic. Damn, night flights are not my idea of a romantic evening when you stand in line to be packed like sardines. Rachel laughed. Oh, honey, we never have to wait in line, and we're packed like sardines, only in the sleeping section of the plane. I heard the disbelief in Rain's voice when she said, "What other sleeping section?" The back of the plane, where there is a large, soft double bed. I've never heard of an airplane with a bed on board. Well, it's his plane, so he can decorate it however he wants. I smiled. Rachel guided her through it so smoothly, it was amazing. A long silence followed. Knowing Jake, he'll probably fall asleep on you tomorrow after tonight, Rain said sarcastically again, trying to retreat and regroup. When I finally sat down at the end of the bed, Rose received 3 quick spanks from Alicia, a kiss from each of us, and went to her bed, very happy. Alicia woke me up right on time with a fun and sincere sex session. At breakfast, all the ladies and I enthusiastically thanked Alicia for her incredibly easy creations, although Rain kept an eye on my chef as she hobbled around the kitchen, trying to keep her thighs apart as she walked. However, the wide smile on her face signaled to everyone that she was more than happy with her injury. Once we were finished and enjoying freshly ground coffee, each with our own preferred bean variety, I got down to business. Caroline, I said, and she stood at attention while remaining seated, which made her large breasts jiggle deliciously. I made a mental note to do this more often. Is Ishato's protocol in action? She looked at her watch. Yes, sir, it went into effect 19 minutes ago. Did everything go smoothly? She reflexively touched her earpiece. Yes, sir. Everything went according to plan, with surprisingly little resistance. I smiled at this. You did exceptionally well. I'm very pleased. I'll fire you tomorrow. Don't think black women can't blush. Despite this, her smile became very wide, and I felt the urge to taste those beautiful lips. Oh, thank you, sir. Well, we'll have to wait until tomorrow. Unless, I decided to be a little inappropriate with my secretary when we got to the office for morning business hours. She always liked it and then nervously scolded me for it. She always told Rachel what I did, who promised to make me do better, and then scolded me privately until I kissed her enough that she forgot what I said. Life was good. "What does a shadows mean?" Laura asked, pouring herself and Alicia another cup. "It has several meanings," I said, "but in this case it means the end." "Oh, I see," Laura smiled. "Fits." And it's true. Rachel touched my arm. "I'm so excited. Their bedrooms are ready, and I'll have the records translated and registered with this county before the end of the morning." "More minxes for your harem?" Rain said contemptuously. "No," I said, keeping my voice level. The moment had arrived, and I was determined to savor it. "My children." "Do you have children? When did this happen?" "When you pushed them out into the world," I replied. She stared at me. "What do you mean?" "Carrie and John. They're coming here to live." She stared at me, then stood up. "Only over my dead body." Abby looked at me with an excited look. "Oh, sir, may I?" "Sorry, Abby, not this time." I don't think she meant it. Rain suddenly realized what Abby meant and took a couple of steps back. "The children won't come here," she declared, although her voice shook a little. "Well, if not here, then where? They must live somewhere." "They live with James and me." "Like I said, they have to live somewhere, like in a house." "They live in my house, but you don't have a home." She stared at me. Then she shook her head. "You're talking nonsense. You don't have a house. The bank took it under a bankruptcy order." Her mouth opened and small sounds came out. Then she closed it again. "Listen, you're talking nonsense. I'll call James and straighten out this nonsense. The kids won't come here. They'll stay where they are, in my house." Caroline immediately offered her a cell phone, which she had pulled out from somewhere, although with a dress as tight as hers, I had no idea where she kept it. I was lost in pleasant thoughts about this, while Rain furiously poked at the small screen. "Rain is here. Put me through to James." "What do you mean he doesn't work there anymore?" "Of course he does. He owns the entire company. Now put me through." "This is nonsense. There is no way that the board of directors—" "We are not bankrupt, so don't tell me we're in external control mode. Don't tell me I shouldn't use we when I talk about my company. How dare you just?" "No, don't hang up." She stared at the phone and then at me. She hung up on me. I hired this bitch, and she just hung up on me. "Well, you were a little aggressive," I suggested. The girls nodded in agreement. "Like a bitch who didn't get paid," Michaela said cheerfully. Rose giggled, and Laura laughed loudly. Loss. I brought my hand to Michaela's cheek, and she pressed herself against my hand, and then kissed the pad of my thumb. Damn, I loved it when girls did that. But she said James had been taken out of the area. She seemed stunned. "I guess the new owners didn't want the idiot working for them," I suggested. "I do not understand what is going on." "Did I mention bankruptcy?" "I thought I did," I said. The girls assured me that my memory was fine. "How can we be bankrupt?" "Well, if you and James aren't working anymore, then I guess you won't be able to cover those extravagant overdrafts and loans you were rolling around. Without a CEO and CFO, the company isn't worth that much. I guess the bank got nervous and filed for bankruptcy on the company as well as on its directors." "But why? If? How?" She made an impression of the catfish I caught the day before. "We've worked with this bank for many years. Why did they do this? How did they do it so quickly?" "Perhaps the bank president disliked you," Rachel suggested. Alicia laughed loudly. "But the bank president is James' uncle. He wouldn't do that." "No, he doesn't own the bank." "Not anymore," Caroline added. She checked on her tablet. "No, he hasn't owned it for over a year." "So who owns the bank, and why did they do this to us?" Tears of disappointment appeared in Rain's eyes. "Let me check," Caroline said, tapping the tablet again. "Oh, turns out Sir owns a bank." She looked at me with a huge smile on her face. "Oh, I was going to fire her ass tomorrow, that little financial genius." "Who would have thought?" Laura muttered. "I never would have thought," Rose said thoughtfully. "Who would have expected it?" Financial fraud, I guess. Abby contributed. Something is rotting in Denmark like an old fish, Michaela misquoted, clearly not about to let the topic go. You, shouted Rain, who had finally caught up. You did it. Well, you know what they say about revenge being best served cold, Rachel muttered. Rain stared at her. No, what are they saying? I asked, leaning over and kissing her deeply. Wait, don't do that. It's against the rules for now. I forgot. What did I say? Rachel seemed a little confused, which made me happy. You will not take my children, Rain shouted, pointing at me with a finger trembling with emotion. Rain, I said calmly, you're unemployed, completely broke and homeless. Your husband is facing an IRS investigation, and he's broke too. I, on the other hand, have a wonderful home, a very comfortable bank account, and a full-time job with a top-notch income. In addition, the court accepted attention to all the time I have spent with the children over the past 4 years with an affidavit from their school and has declared me the custodial parent until further notice. Did you spend time with the children? But they never said anything. Well, if you're going to try to poison them against their father so your lover can pretend he's man enough to actually be the child's father, what do you expect? Rachel's eyes flashed dangerously. She clearly supported me in this matter. I wondered if she would like to have her own child. It was something to think about. You think your children aren't smart enough to see through your lies? She finished, and I squeezed her hand in gratitude. I need to leave, Rain said, spinning around and looking around wildly. I need to see them. Well, if you want to see them, I remarked, you should stay where you are. They are on their way and should be with us in 48 minutes, sir, give or take a few minutes depending on traffic. Caroline showed her brilliant mind again. She was a junior economics professor when Rachel met her, trying to fight a system that was secretly and subtly both misogynistic and racist at its core, and was slowly losing ground. Being with me not only gave her the opportunity to fully utilize her business talents, but it also provided her with a place where she didn't have to constantly struggle just to stay level. Here she had a family who loved and supported her in every way. But where should I go? Rain screamed. Where will James go? What should I do? I was going to put the final nail in the coffin of my revenge and tell her to get out and die. Rachel put her hand on my shoulder. James will probably go to jail. Caroline has taken a close look at the company's accounts, and in her assessment, the borrowing he has been doing from the accounts will likely upset both the tax authorities and the DA. As for you, perhaps Sir could hire you. I looked at her, amazed, not an easy task for one person. We need someone to maintain this property the way it should be, Rachel said smoothly. The remuneration will not be great, and there won't really be much more pocket money. However, the position will offer room and board. A room in the West Wing, near the children, will be available. The girls' bedrooms were all in the East Wing, right next to mine. Do you want me to be a cleaner? Rain gasped. I don't want you to be anything, Rachel replied. However, there is a vacancy, and you seem to fit the role of someone with no real talent for anything else. I have a position in society that needs to be maintained, Rain countered. The situation of a homeless person with a husband who is heading to prison. Someone with no income, no fixed or movable assets, and not even clothes other than the panties and bra you wore yesterday. That's the situation. Rain opened her mouth like a fish again. She was getting better at it. I have nothing. You have absolutely nothing. You have nothing. You have no prospects and nowhere to live. This is reality. So you can take the position of a cleaner and nanny for your children, or you can leave. Decide for yourself. Oh, Rachel, you have given me my revenge, a revenge far sweeter than I could have ever imagined. I couldn't wait to fire her and show my appreciation in the sweetest way. I guess I don't have much choice, Rain finally said. Great, it's decided. Rain, you need to go to the office, Caroline stated. You have to sign a job application and a bunch of other forms before you get hired. What shapes? Forms that prevent any conversation about Sir's private and business life with anyone. forms detailing the consequences of attempting to steal Sir's children or anything else from Sir, forms for complying with security protocols, and finally a contract detailing your responsibilities, your benefits, and the amount of your remuneration. Will I become a slave? Slave is such an emotionally charged word, Caroline pointed out. It's better not to use it. Slave, bitch without pay. Is there a difference? Michaela whispered loudly. Caroline looked at her sternly, and the little Italian blushed and hurried to hug my secretary, apologizing. It's a matter of history and pride, she whispered to the dark-skinned girl. Yes, I understand. Caroline kissed her for forgiveness, and Mr. Lucky jumped up to see what was going on. Girls kissing each other is a man's business. I cannot explain it. You have to be a man to understand. I stood up, and the girls began to go about their business. Rain still looked stunned and turned to me. Caroline was waiting patiently for her. So, you're my boss now, after turning my world upside down. I get it. You wanted revenge, and now you got it in full. I wanted to be a celebrity, or at least a person with high social status, and now I am a poor cleaning lady, while you went from nothing to. She waved her hand, pointing to the house and the girls who were leaving. To everything. You certainly showed me. I don't even have a man that I left for you. Don't forget about stealing everything from me at once, I said. I guess I should be glad I get fired sometimes, she said with a bitter laugh. Rain, you are the woman I loved and married. You are the mother of my children. I respect you too much to ever do this. You have job security. I smiled, slightly evilly. I will never fire you. Never. At that moment, I heard the sound of a car engine in the driveway. The heavy gates closed behind him with a dull sound. My lawyer, Sir Brian Stone, was arriving with the children, and I couldn't wait to see them.